What if the most perfect love story you've ever seen was a complete and total lie? We live in a world where everything is curated for cameras, where reality is often just a well-produced script. This is especially true in Hollywood, where a celebrity's image is worth millions. So what happens when a famous actress, on the verge of losing everything due to bad press, decides to hire a complete stranger in ordinary manto play the part of her loving fiancé? It's a scandalous, calculated move. But here is the crazy part. What if the biggest, most cynical lie could accidentally lead you to the most profound and unbreakable truth? Haven't you ever felt, even for a moment, like you're playing a role? A role at work, with friends, maybe even the role of the person you think you're supposed to be? It can be lonely and exhausting, can't it? Deep down, we believe that what everyone truly craves is something real, a connection that sees past the job titles, the followers, and the masks we all wear. This is the story of a woman who had all the fame in the world, but was starving for just 1 ounce of that truth, and she was about to find it in the most unexpected place imaginable. This story isn't just another celebrity romance. It's a powerful lesson in how the simplest things hold the most power. The solution for this famous star wasn't found in a better agent or a bigger movie deal. It was found in a cluttered, loving family home in the middle of Ohio. You are about to witness how a forced holiday visit, filled with humble traditions and genuine people, can completely shatter a superstar's world and rebuild it into something stronger and far more beautiful than any red carpet success. This is a story that will make you question everything you think you know about fame, love, and the true meaning of a rich life. So get comfortable. You're not going to want to miss a second of this. And as we dive in, do us a quick favor and be sure to follow our channel and share this video with someone who loves a story that hits right in the heart. Oh, and drop a comment below letting us know where in the world you're watching from today. You know, it's a funny thing, this game of fame. 1 minute, you're the toast of the town, the darling of the silver screen. The next, your public enemy. Number 1. Well, let me tell you, Scarlet Vale was feeling the heat big time. This famous star was watching her own carefully constructed universe start to crumble, and the constant, suffocating tabloid pressure felt like a physical weight on her shoulders, pushing her down, dimming her shine. It wasn't just one thing, you see. It never is. It was a slow burn of bad press, a misquoted interview here, an out-of-context paparazzi shot there. It all snowballed into this public perception of her being a difficult, out-off-touch diva. Deep down, this was a battle of agent versus authenticity, where the manufactured, edgy persona her team had built was now swallowing the real woman whole, and she was choking on it. Think about it in your own life for a moment. Have you ever felt like you were playing a part to please others? Your boss, your friends, maybe even your family. You do it for so long that you start to forget where the character ends and you begin. That was Scarlett's life in a nutshell. A gilded cage built of Chanel bags and broken promises to herself. A far cry from the simple life she secretly craved. And boy, the backlash was brutal. We're talking non-stop social media storms, vicious articles dissecting her every move, her every word. It was a digital witch hunt, and she was tied to the stake. Every notification on her phone felt like another stone being thrown. It was a long, painful fall, the first step in a journey she didn't even know she was on. A harsh lesson in the long road from fame to feelings. The timing couldn't have been worse, of course. Her new film, the one she'd poured her entire soul into, was just weeks from its premiere. This was supposed to be her masterpiece, the role that defined her career, but now it was all being overshadowed. The producers were getting nervous, the studio was panicking, and the whispers of a potential box office disaster were growing louder, hinting that a celebrity love twist might be the only way to salvage things. Alone in her cavernous Hollywood mansion, surrounded by awards she no longer cared about, Scarlett felt a bonnet-deep exhaustion. She looked at her reflection and saw a stranger staring back, her eyes filled with a desperate plea for an escape. Just as she hit her lowest point, her phone buzzed. It was her publicist, her voice a strange mix of panic and exhilaration. "Scarlett," she said, "don't hang up. I have a crazy last-ditch idea. It's wild, but it might just be crazy enough to work." The publicist's crazy idea was laid out on the table like a military strategy, a bold and audacious plan to change the entire narrative. "We can't fight the fire with fire," she explained, pacing Scarlett's living room. "We need to fight it with water. We need to soften you, make you relatable human." The strategy was simple yet brilliant in its manipulation. They would stage a fake engagement. It was the ultimate manifestation of agent versus authenticity, a plan to paint a masterpiece of deception for the world to adore. It couldn't be with another actor or a musician, no. That would feel incestuous, just more Hollywood noise. The key, the secret ingredient to this whole charade, was to find an ordinary man, someone from outside the bubble, someone with calloused hands and a genuine smile. "People need to see you grounded," the publicist insisted. "It's the perfect Hollywood meets Heartland story. They will eat it up." It was a calculated risk, a high-stakes bet that this grand performance could rewrite her public story. Think about the power of a story. A good story can change minds, win hearts, even build empires. It's the oldest tool in the book of human influence. Scarlett's team was about to write the most compelling story of the season, a tale of unexpected love designed to look so real that no one would dare question it. The goal was to create a publicity stunt gone real in the public's imagination, a fairy tale so enchanting it would erase all the previous headlines. Scarlett, for her part, was horrified. It felt cheap, dishonest, a betrayal of the small part of herself that was still real. "You want me to lie? To hire someone to be my fiancé?" The words tasted like ash in her mouth. But as her publicist laid out the cold, hard facts that tank in pre-release ticket sales, the morality clauses in her contracts, the looming threat of being completely blacklisted, cold dread washed over her. The tabloid pressure wasn't just unpleasant, it was threatening to end her. She was trapped, a cornered animal with only one way out. It was a choice between her integrity and her career, the very thing she had sacrificed everything for. This wasn't about finding love, it was about professional survival. The plan was a grotesque puppet show where she was the main attraction, a manufactured celebrity love twist designed for mass consumption. She hated every single thing about it, yet she couldn't see another path forward. With a barely audible whisper, she agreed. A single tear of rage and resignation rolled down her cheek, which she quickly wiped away. The publicist, however, was already on her phone, a shark sensing blood in the water. "Excellent," she said, her voice devoid of any real sympathy. "In sending the lawyers the briefing now. I've already found the perfect guy. He's a teacher from Ohio, totally off the grid. This is going to work." Miles away from the glitz and smog of Los Angeles, Jack Miller was doing what he always did on a Tuesday night, grading history papers at his cluttered kitchen table. His world was one of school bells, the squeak of sneakers on a basketball court, and the quiet satisfaction of seeing a student finally grasp a difficult concept. He was the definition of an ordinary man, living a simple life that was rich in purpose, if not in cash. Fame was the last thing on his mind. He wouldn't even know what to do with it. He was a good man, the kind of person who forms the backbone of a community, strong, dependable, and deeply committed to his family. But life, as it often does, had thrown his family a curveball. His younger sister needed an expensive surgery that insurance refused to cover, and the worry was a constant low hum in the back of his mind. Had been picking up extra shifts, tutoring, even considered selling a small piece of the family land. He was a man in a tight spot, needing a miracle. That miracle arrived in the most unexpected way imaginable, a phone call from a slick, fast-ticking lawyer in California. The man on the other end of the line spoke of a mutually beneficial business proposal and a high-profile client. Jack was sure it was a scam, some elaborate prank cooked up by his buddies. When the lawyer finally mentioned Scarlet Vale's name and the nature of the proposal, Jack almost hung up. It was the most absurd thing he had ever heard. "Let me get this straight," Jack said, rubbing his tired eyes. "You want to pay me to pretend to be engaged to a movie star?" The idea was laughable, something straight out of one of the ridiculous movies his students watched. "Why him?" the lawyer explained. That his complete lack of interest in fame was exactly his biggest asset. He was authentic, the perfect antidote to her controversial image, a classic case of Hollywood meets Heartland. The initial offer was staggering, enough to cover his sister's surgery and then some. But the thought of living such a public lie, of inviting that kind of chaos into his quiet existence, was deeply unsettling. He valued his privacy, his authenticity. This whole scheme felt like a deal with the devil, a path that could lead to him losing himself. This wasn't a romance, it was a transaction, a carefully orchestrated publicity stunt gone realer at least. That was the intention he wrestled with. The decision for 2 days. He pictured his sister's smiling face, free from pain and worry. He thought about the peace of mind it would bring his parents. Wasn't it his duty to help them, no matter the personal cost? With a deep breath that felt more like a surrender, he called the lawyer back. "I'll do it," he said, his voice firm, trying to convince himself as much as the lawyer. "But we're doing this on my terms too." The first meeting was as awkward as a middle school dance. It took place in a sterile glass-walled conference room in Century City that felt like another planet to Jack. Scarlet Vale sat at the far end of a long mahogany table, wearing sunglasses indoors, her posture rigid. She looked less like a person, and more like a beautiful, untouchable statue. Jack, in his best and only blazer, felt like a bull in a china shop. The air was thick with unspoken judgment from both sides. Their lawyers did most of the talking, sliding a document across the table that was thicker than a phone book. The contract. It was a masterpiece of legal jargon, outlining every single detail of their relationship. There were clauses for public appearances, approved topics of conversation, and a detailed social media strategy. It was the blueprint for their lie, a testament to the ongoing war of agent versus authenticity in Scarlett's life. Every smile, every touch was now a contractual obligation. The most surreal part was the section on emotional involvement. Clause 12, Section B, explicitly stated, both parties agree to maintain a strictly professional and non-emotional relationship. The development of genuine romantic feelings is a breach of contract. Jack had to read it twice. They were legally required not to fall in love. It was the very foundation of the agreement. Ensuring this pretend love becomes truth scenario remained firmly in the realm of fiction. What a world, he thought. They both knew what this was, a business arrangement. She needed to clean up her image, and he needed the money. It was as simple and as complicated as that. For Scarlett, he was a prop. For Jack, she was a very lucrative, very difficult temporary job. As he picked up the heavy pen to sign, he caught her eye for a brief second. There was no warmth there, just a cold, hard resolve. He signed his name, his simple life officially over. This fake fiancé turns real story was now in motion. The moment the ink was dry, the dynamic shifted. They were no longer two strangers, they were a commodity, a brand. Scarlett Jack, the publicist who had been watching from the corner like a hawk, immediately stepped in with a file. "Great, here is your how we met story. You'll have it memorized by morning. Your first photo op is tomorrow." A celebrity love twist had officially been born, not out of passion, but out of a press release and a signed document. As they walked out of the building separately, the weight of the lie settled upon them both. It was one thing to agree to it, another to start living it. The contract stipulated several key events, including shared holidays to sell the story. The first one was just weeks away: Christmas. Scarlett would have to fly to Ohio and meet his family. The thought filled her with a sense of dread, and for Jack, a profound sense of impending doom. The real performance was about to begin. The trip to Ohio was a culture shock for Scarlett. The private jet was replaced by a connecting flight to a small regional airport where everyone seemed to know each other. The air was crisp and smelled of pine needles, a stark contrast to the manicured, perpetually sunny climate of LA. This was the heart of the Hollywood meets Heartland narrative they were trying to sell. And for Scarlett, it felt terrifyingly real. There were no assistants, no security, just Jack, looking more at home than she'd ever seen him. Jack's family home was, well, a home. It was warm, a little cluttered, filled with the scent of baking cookies and the sound of laughter echoing from the living room. Framed photos of grinning faces and awkward school pictures lined the hallways. It was the complete opposite of her minimalist mansion, which felt more like an art gallery than a place where people actually lived. For the first time, she felt a pang of something she couldn't name, a longing for a simple life she had never known. His family descended upon them with hugs and loud, joyful greetings. They weren't starstruck, they were curious, warm, and unapologetically themselves. They asked her about her flight, if she was hungry, if she needed a thicker sweater. They treated her not like the famous star she was, but like Jack's girlfriend. It was so disarmingly normal that it threw her completely off balance. There was no script for this, no angle to play. There was just family. Around the dinner table, listening to stories about Jack's childhood, watching his mother fuss over him. Scarlett felt like an alien observing a foreign species. This was a world of genuine connection, of shared history, of a love that wasn't performed for cameras. This was the kind of environment where a pretend love becomes truth storyline could feel dangerously plausible. It was in these small, unscripted moments that the lines of their contract began to feel blurry and irrelevant. This was the first true test of their arrangement, far more challenging than any red carpet. It was an intimate performance with the most discerning audience imaginable: his family. The whole weekend was meant to be the cornerstone of their public narrative, the perfect holiday romance reveal that her publicist would leak to the press. For Jack, it was a stressful balancing act, trying to protect his family from the lie, while making it look convincing for Scarlett. As the first night drew to a close, Jack's mother pulled Scarlett aside. "He's a good boy, our Jack," she said, her eyes kind but perceptive. "He seems happier since he met you." The simple, heartfelt words hit Scarlett with unexpected force. It was the first time anyone had spoken about her potential effect on someone else's happiness. She just nodded, unable to form a reply, the weight of the deception feeling heavier than ever before. The first few days were a comedy of errors. Scarlett, accustomed to a world where everything was done for her, was utterly lost. She didn't know how to chop vegetables for the family dinner. She wore designer silk pajamas to breakfast, and she nearly broke the ancient dishwasher by putting the wrong soap in it. The family found it amusing rather than offensive, their laughter gentle and inclusive. For them, her cluelessness was a novelty, not a character flaw. This was a world away from the harsh tabloid pressure she was used to. Their traditions were simple, rooted in connection rather than consumption. They went caroling in the neighborhood, their voices more enthusiastic than in tune. They had a fiercely competitive board game night that involved way more shouting and laughing than Scarlett thought possible. They spent an entire afternoon decorating the tree with mismatched homemade ornaments, each one holding a story. Scarlett, who usually had a team of professionals decorate her 10-foot tree, found herself hesitantly hanging a lopsided gingerbread man Jack made in 3rd grade. At first, she felt a wall of resistance. This wasn't her world. This wasn't the life she had chosen. This was all just a part of the act, a chapter in the fake fiancé turns real playbook she was forced to follow. But as the days went on, something began to shift inside her. The constant performance started to fade, replaced by moments of genuine, unscripted reality. She found herself laughing at Jack's dad's terrible jokes and listening intently to his sister's stories about college. It was in these quiet moments, away from the glare of imaginary cameras, that she began to feel comfortable, safe even. There was an authenticity here that Hollywood lacked, a simple joy that money couldn't buy. The experience was chipping away at the icy exterior she had built around her heart. This unexpected sense of belonging was a complication she hadn't anticipated, a sign that perhaps this holiday romance reveal was becoming more than just a publicity stunt. One evening, while helping Jack's mom dry the duchessa task she hadn't performed in over a decade, Ash was struck by the profound simplicity of the moment. The warm water, the quiet conversation, the feeling of being useful for something other than her face or her name. This was the simple life she sometimes saw in movies but never believed was real. It was a powerful, humbling experience, the kind that forces a family change as a star transformation, whether you're ready for it or not. She started to see the appeal, the magnetic pull of this life. It was a life built on small, meaningful moments, on a foundation of unconditional love and support. It was everything her life wasn't. As she lay in the cozy guest room bed that night, the silence of the countryside replacing the endless hum of the city, she felt a strange and unfamiliar peace. The thought of leaving it all behind when Christmas was over brought a surprising and unwelcome pang of sadness. The warmth of the Miller family acted like a solvent, slowly dissolving the hard, protective shell Scarlett had spent years constructing. Away from her agent, her publicist, and the relentless judgment of the public eye, the need for the persona began to fade. One afternoon, while looking through old photo albums with Jack's mom, she found herself talking about her own childhood, sharing stories she hadn't told anyone in years. Stories from before she was Scarlett Vale, when she was just Scarlett from Pasadena who loved to sing off-key. It was as if this environment, so rich in authenticity, was giving her permission to be authentic too. She talked about her dream of being a veterinarian before acting took over, a forgotten passion from a different lifetime. Jack's family listened, not with the salacious curiosity of an interviewer, but with genuine interest. In their eyes, she wasn't a headline, she was a person. This was a profound shift, the first real step on the long road from fame to feelings. She remembered the girl who was full of goofy humor and insecurities, the girl who loved greasy pizza and bad sci-fi movies. That girl had been buried under layers of designer clothes, media training, and the constant need to be on. Here, in this cozy living room in Ohio, that girl started to peek out again. She cracked a joke, a real, unscripted one, and the family roared with laughter. The sound was intoxicating, so much more rewarding than the polite applause at an awards show. Jack watched this transformation with a mixture of awe and confusion. He was seeing past the famous star facade for the first time. He saw the vulnerability she tried so hard to hide, the quick wit that was usually buried under sarcastic quips. He realized the diva act was just an act, armor. The contract they signed felt like a distant memory when he saw her genuinely smile, her whole face lighting up in a way no camera had ever captured. This was more than a publicity stunt gone real, it felt like a genuine uncovering. This journey into Jack's world was forcing her to confront the woman she had become and the stark difference from the woman she had been. It was a painful but necessary reflection, a classic case where family changes a star. It wasn't about them lecturing her, it was about their very existence showing her a different way to live, a different way to be. It was a quiet revolution happening inside her, far from any spotlight. She was rediscovering herself, piece by piece. It was like finding parts of her soul that she thought were lost forever, packed away in an attic. The experience was unsettling and exhilarating all at once. She was starting to realize that the person she was pretending to be for Jack's family felt more real than the person she had been playing in Hollywood for the last 10 years. The lie was, ironically, forcing her to be more honest with herself than she had been in a very long time. As the days of the holiday visit bled into one another, Jack's perception of Scarlett began to fundamentally change. He had gone into this arrangement expecting the self-absorbed, demanding celebrity, and for the first day or two, she had played that part well. But now he was seeing behind the curtain. He saw her trying, and often failing, to help his mom in the kitchen, a look of intense concentration on her face as she attempted to peel a potato. It was endearing and completely at odds with her public image. He saw her kindness in small, unexpected moments. He noticed how she listened, truly listened, when his sister talked about her anxieties over the upcoming surgery. Scarlett didn't offer platitudes. She shared a story of her own about being terrified before her first big audition, making his sister feel seen and understood. It was a quiet act of empathy that no one else noticed, a glimpse of the woman who existed love beyond the spotlight. Her wit was another surprise. It wasn't the sharp defensive sarcasm she used with the press. It was a playful, intelligent humor that surfaced when she was relaxed. During a particularly intense game of charades, she delivered a hilariously perfect impression of his grumpy, stoic father, making the entire family, including his dad, erupt in laughter. In that moment, he saw a spark, a vibrant, joyful energy that her fame had all but extinguished. He was starting to see the person, not the persona. It was becoming clear that the famous star was a caricature, a role she played for survival. The real Scarlett was hidden underneath, and Jack felt a strange sense of privilege to be one of the few people to see her. This whole situation, born from a lie, was ironically creating a space for a kind of truth to emerge. He was supposed to be the ordinary man in this equation, but he was beginning to realize there was nothing ordinary about the woman he was getting to know. This experience was a powerful lesson for him, too. It's easy to judge people based on headlines and sound bites, isn't it? We do it all the time. We see a celebrity, a politician, or even a neighbor, and we think we have them all figured out. But we're only seeing the cover of the book. Jack was getting to read the first few chapters of Scarlett's story, and it was far more complex and compelling than he ever could have imagined. This was more than just a setup for A Teacher Wins the Actress headline. He started to feel a protective instinct towards her. When his aunt made a slightly judgmental comment about the Hollywood lifestyle, he found himself defending Scarlett, explaining the pressure she was under. He was no longer just her contractual partner, he was becoming her ally. He was seeing the vulnerable woman beneath the armor, and he was starting to care about her, a direct violation of the contract sitting in his desk drawer back home. The charade they were so carefully maintaining for his family started to feel less like a performance and more like a strange, budding reality. The spark between them wasn't a sudden explosion, it was a slow burn, kindled in the quiet moments when no one was watching. It happened late one night, when they were the last two awake, cleaning up the kitchen after everyone else had gone to bed. They worked in a comfortable silence, a shared, easy rhythm developing between them. She asked him about his passion for teaching, and for the first time, he saw her look at him without a trace of judgment or pity. She was genuinely interested. He, in turn, asked her about the first movie she ever fell in love with. Her face lit up as she described watching Singing in the Rain as a little girl, and for a few minutes, she wasn't a commodity. She was just a woman sharing a piece of her heart. This was the dangerous, beautiful territory of pretend love becomes truth. You know that feeling when you connect with someone on a level you didn't expect? It's a jolt, a little shock to the system. That's what they both felt. It was in the shared glances across the dinner table, the way Head instinctively put a hand on her back to guide her through a crowded room, the way Shed laughed at his jokes before anyone else did. These weren't in the contract. These were real, involuntary, and utterly terrifying for both of them. The most potent moments happened in the silence. One afternoon, they took a walk in the snow-covered woods behind his house. There were no lines to rehearse, no roles to play. They just walked, the crunch of their boots in the snow the only sound. He pointed out the different types of trees, and she told him about the overwhelming noise of her life in LA, in that quiet, shared space. The lie between them felt paper-thin. A big love story was beginning to write itself, against their will. This growing connection was a direct threat to the carefully constructed barrier they had built. The whole point of this was to be a publicity stunt gone real, only in the eyes of the public. For them, it was supposed to be a sterile business deal. But how do you stop a feeling from growing? It's like trying to hold back the tide with your bare hands. The chemistry between them was undeniable, a complication that could derail everything. As the day of her departure grew closer, a strange tension settled between them. They were both acutely aware that this bubble of domestic bliss was about to burst. They would be returning to their roles, the famous star and the ordinary man. But something had irrevocably shifted. They had seen too much of each other's true selves. As they stood on the porch one last evening, a silent understanding passed between them. This was no longer simple. Back in Los Angeles, the carefully curated photos from the authentic Ohio Christmas were having their desired effect. The tabloids were eating it up, running saccharine headlines about the Hollywood meets Heartland romance. Her publicist was ecstatic, her agent relieved. The strategy was working perfectly. But her agent, a woman with a sixth sense for trouble, noticed something in the photos that worried her. It was in Scarlett's eyes, a genuine softness she hadn't seen in years. She called Scarlett for a check-in, her voice deceptively casual. "The pictures look great, honey. You look happy." The word hung in the air, an accusation. "Just remember what this is. It's a job. We're selling a narrative, not living one." It was a clear warning shot, a reminder of the line that was not to be crossed. This was about damage control, not a genuine journey from fame to feelings. The agent's suspicion was a manifestation of the core conflict in Scarlett's life: agent versus authenticity. The agent had built Scarlett's career on a carefully controlled image. Any deviation, any genuine emotion that wasn't focus grouped was a liability. "Don't get lost in the role," she warned. "He's a prop, Scarlett. A very charming, very effective prop, but he's not real. Don't let this fake fiancé turns real fantasy get in your head. Think about how often we're told to suppress our feelings for a greater good, a career, a family expectation, a social norm. We're told to be practical, to keep our emotions in check." This is the advice Scarlett was getting from her entire professional circle. They saw her budding connection with Jack not as a beautiful development, but as a dangerous complication, a variable they couldn't control. They were terrified that this pretend love becomes truth situation would blow up in their faces. Scarlett found herself becoming defensive, denying anything was happening. "Of course it's an act," she snapped back, a little too quickly. "I'm an actress, remember? That's what I do." But the denial felt hollow even to her own ears. The agent's words felt like a splash of cold water, forcing her to confront the reality of what was happening. She was starting to care for Jack, and that was a massive problem for everyone who depended on her career. The pressure began to mount from a new direction. It was no longer just the public she had to perform for, but her own team. They watched her every interaction with Jack during their staged paparazzi outings, analyzing her for any signs of genuine affection. The lie was becoming more complex, more layered. She was now pretending to be in a fake relationship while secretly developing real feelings she had to pretend not to have. It was an emotional prison, and the walls were closing in. Just as Scarlett's team was celebrating their PR victory, the tide began to turn. You see, the thing about the media is that it loves to build a fairy tale, but it loves to tear one down. Even more, a rival tabloid, one known for its ruthless investigative journalists, started sniffing around. They ran a small piece at first, a column questioning how the world's most talked about famous star could fall for a completely unknown ordinary man so quickly. It was just a seed of doubt, but it was planted. The initial story was framed as a Christmas miracle or a carefully crafted deception. The article pointed out the convenient timing of the romance, right when Scarlett's image needed a desperate overhaul. The tabloid pressure shifted from criticizing her character to questioning her relationship. They were no longer buying the celebrity love twist, they were actively trying to debunk it. The narrative that had saved her was now threatening to become her biggest scandal yet. This is a powerful lesson in control, or the lack thereof. You can create the perfect plan, the most convincing story, but you can never control how the world will interpret it. Once an idea is out there, it takes on a life of its own. Scarlett's team had launched the publicity stunt Gone Real story, but now, a competing story, the publicity stunt is a sham, was starting to gain traction, and it was far more dangerous. For Jack, this was his worst nightmare come true. A reporter showed up in his hometown, trying to interview his students, his neighbors, the owner of the local diner. They were digging into his past, trying to find any dirt, any evidence that he was paid off. He had entered this deal to solve a problem, but now he was at the center of a media firestorm that threatened to ruin his reputation and disrupt the quiet, simple life of everyone he cared about. The pressure on Scarlett and Jack was immense. Every staged public outing now felt like a high-wire act without a net. They were overanalyzed, their body language dissected by experts on daytime talk shows. Were they holding hands too tightly? Was that smile genuine or forced? The joy they had started to find in each other's company was replaced by annoying anxiety. The lie was beginning to fray at the edges, threatening to unravel completely. Her agent was in full-blown crisis mode. "We need more," she demanded. More candidates, more public affection. "We have to sell this harder than ever." But forcing the intimacy only made it look more staged. They were caught in a vicious cycle. The more they tried to prove their love was real, the more ammunition they gave to those who claimed it was fake. The truth of their growing feelings was now buried under layers of desperate performance. Right in the middle of this escalating media crisis, the unthinkable happened. Scarlett received a call from the most celebrated director in Hollywood, a man known for making legends. He had seen her latest film, The One. This whole charade was meant to Savand, had been blown away by her performance. He was offering her the role of a lifetime, a complex, gritty character that actors would kill for. It was the kind of role that wins Oscars and cements a legacy loved beyond the spotlight. There was, however, a catch, a big one. The director was old school, a purist who despised Hollywood games. "I want you for this role, Scarlett," he said, his voice gravelly and serious. "But I can have my lead actress embroiled in a tacky tabloid scandal. This whole fake romance thing, it has to end. Cleanly and quickly. I need your focus, not this distraction." He was demanding the ultimate act of agent versus authenticity. She had to choose her art over her public image. This offer presented her with an impossible choice. It was a classic fork-in-the-road moment, the kind that defines a life. On one path was the career she had always dreamed of, the artistic validation she craved. On the other path was Jack. The relationship had started as a lie, a means to an end, but it had morphed into something confusingly real. Ending it now, as the director demanded, felt like a betrayal. The irony was crushing. The very publicity stunt gone real that had been created to save her career was now the only thing standing in the way of her biggest Professional triumph. Her agent, of course, saw no dilemma at all. "This is it. This is what we wanted," she exclaimed. "End it. Put out a joint statement about amicable separation. The timing is perfect. It makes you look serious, focused on your craft." The teacher. Wins. The actress story had a good run, but it's over. Scarlett felt a profound sense of whiplash. For weeks, she'd been forced to sell this relationship as the most important thing in her life. Now she was being told to discard it like a used movie prop. It exposed the brutal, transactional nature of her world. But her feelings for Jack weren't transactional. They were the one real thing to emerge from this mountain of lies, a fragile bloom in a plastic garden. The thought of a pretend love becomes truth story ending just as it was becoming true was agonizing. She didn't give her agent an answer right away. She needed to think. She sat alone in her sterile, perfect house, the director's offer in one hand and the weight of her feelings for Jack in the other. For the first time, the choice wasn't just about her career. It was about what kind of person she wanted to be. Would she choose the validation of the world or the quiet, uncertain truth she had found with an ordinary man from Ohio? Before Scarlett could even process her own conflicted feelings, the news of the movie offered its condition leaked. It was a strategic move by someone on her team, designed to force her hand. When Jack saw the headline online, "Scarlett Vale's dream role hinges on dumping hometown beau," his heart sank. He felt like a complete fool. All his fears, all his initial reservations about this arrangement, came rushing back. He had been a pawn in her game all along. He didn't wait for her to call. He called her first, his voice tight with a hurt he couldn't hide. "I saw the news," he said, the words feeling like stones in his mouth. "So that's it, huh? The contract is fulfilled. The job is done." He wasn't angry, he was just defeated. He had allowed himself to hope, to believe that what was growing between them was real. Now it all felt like a cruel illusion, a well-acted scene in the fake Fiance's real movie of her life. From his perspective, the choice was obvious. Of course she would choose the role. It was everything she'd ever worked for. He was just a temporary fix, a stepping stone. The entire Hollywood meets Heartland narrative was a sham designed to get her exactly where she was now. He felt used, like a prop that was no longer needed on set. The kindness, the vulnerability, the connection he thought they'd shared was that all part of the act too. This is the inherent danger of a relationship built on a lie. When the foundation is cracked, the whole structure is unstable. Even if genuine feelings emerge, they are haunted by the ghost of the original deception. Jack's trust was shattered. He couldn't see past the contract and the headlines to the conflicted woman on the other end of the line. He saw the famous star making the calculated career move, and it broke his heart. He told her he was backing away. "It's better this way, Scarlett," he said, his voice losing its fight. "You go be the star you're meant to be. In going back to my life. The simple life. It's where I belong." He was preemptively ending things to protect himself from the inevitable pain of being publicly discarded. It was a self-preservation move, but for Scarlett, it felt like a verdict. He had already decided for her. He hung up the phone, leaving Scarlett in stunned silence. He had misinterpreted her hesitation as confirmation of his fears. He didn't see her struggle. He only saw the cold, hard facts of the entertainment industry. The potential for a big love was now overshadowed by the reality of her big career. He believed the story was over, that the teacher wins the actress headline would never be written. He retreated back to his world, convinced he was nothing more than a footnote in hers. The night of her big premiere arrived. It was the culmination of everything the movie she had poured her soul into, the PR storm she had weathered, the lie she had lived for months. The red carpet was a frenzy of flashing lights and shouted questions. All eyes were on Scarlett Vale, the triumphant star who had successfully navigated the tabloid pressure, and was now on the cusp of even greater success. Her agent was by her side, beaming, whispering about the new role she was about to accept. Dressed in a stunning couture gown, she looked every bit the Hollywood queen. She smiled for the cameras, gave the practiced answers, and played her part to perfection. But inside, a storm was raging. As she stood there, amidst the chaos and adoration, she realized how empty it all was. This world of flashing bulbs and superficial praise was no longer her dream. Her dream was now quieter, simpler. It looked a lot like a cozy house in Ohio. In that moment, she understood the choice she had to make. It wasn't about her career versus Jack, it was about the person she wanted to be. It was the ultimate battle of agent versus authenticity, and her authentic self was screaming to be let out. She thought about the warmth of Jack's family, the sound of his laughter, the feeling of being seen for who she really was, not for the image she projected. That was real. This was not. So she did something no one expected. In the middle of an interview with a major entertainment network, with millions watching live, the reporter asked, "So Scarlett, what's next for you after this incredible success?" Scarlett looked directly into the camera, and a real, genuine smile spread across her face. "Actually," she said, her voice clear and steady, "I'm retiring." The reporter's jaw dropped. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. This was the ultimate red carpet rejection. She didn't explain further. She simply said, "Thank you for everything," handed the microphone back to the stunned reporter, turned around, and walked away. She walked past her screaming agent, past the bewildered studio executives, and straight off the red carpet. She didn't look back. It wasn't an act of self-destruction, it was an act of self-preservation. It was a dramatic public declaration that she was choosing a life loved beyond the spotlight. The world was in shock. Headlines immediately exploded across the internet. It was a move of such breathtaking audacity that no one knew what to make of it. Was it a breakdown? A publicity stunt of a different kind? But for Scarlett, it was the first truly honest thing she had done in a decade. She was walking away from the famous star and walking toward something much more valuable, a chance at a real, unscripted, and beautifully simple life. Scarlett didn't go back to her mansion. She went straight to the airport, not to a private terminal, but to the main concourse, just another face in the crowd. She bought a one-way ticket to Ohio. She traded her designer gown for jeans and a sweatshirt in an airport gift shop. With every step she took away from her old life, she felt a layer of pressure, of performance, shedding from her shoulders. This wasn't about a grand romantic gesture, it was about saving herself. Arriving in Jack's small town was a starkly different experience this time. There were no fake smiles, no contractual obligations. She was just a woman in a rented sedan, driving down a quiet street, her heart pounding with a mixture of terror and hope. She wasn't Scarlett Vale, the famous star, anymore. She had walked away from that person on the red carpet. She was just Scarlett, someone searching for a truth she'd almost forgotten existed. This journey was the final chapter in the Hollywood meets Heartland story, but it was one she was writing for herself, with no audience in mind. It was about choosing authenticity over applause. Think about the bravest thing you've ever done. Was it a big, public act or a quiet, personal decision to change your life's direction? Scarlett's red carpet walk was public, but this drive, this return, was the truly courageous part. She was terrified that she was too late, that Jack would have already closed his heart to her. She had let him believe the worst, that she would choose her career without a second thought. Now she was showing up on his doorstep, having chosen him in the most dramatic way possible, but words were needed. She had to explain her choice, not as a grand sacrifice, but as a necessary step toward her own happiness, a happiness she realized was intertwined with him. This was the real test of her from fame to feelings transformation. She knew the gossip would eventually follow her, that the tabloid pressure might never fully disappear. But for the first time, she didn't care. Let them talk. Let them speculate. Her focus was singular to find the ordinary man who had shown her what a real life, a big love could look like. She was done with performances. She was ready to be honest, vulnerable, and real, no matter the consequences. As she pulled up to his familiar welcoming house, she took a deep breath. She had no idea what she would find. Would he slam the door? In her face, would he believe her? All she knew was that she had to try. She had rejected the world's definition of success to pursue her own. She was no longer just a character in a story, she was finally the author. Jack was in his workshop, sanding down a piece of wood, trying to lose himself in the familiar grounding work when he heard the car pull up. He ignored it at first, figuring it was a neighbor. But when the knock came on his door, a soft, hesitant rap, his heart skipped a beat. He opened the door, and there she was. Not the glamorous movie star, but Scarlett. Just Scarlett, in a simple sweatshirt, her face free of makeup, her eyes filled with a terrifying vulnerability. For a long moment, they just stood there, the unspoken. Words hanging in the air between them. The TV in his living room was murmuring in the background, no doubt still buzzing about her shocking red carpet rejection. He had seen it. He had watched, stunned, as she walked away from everything. He didn't understand. "What are you doing here?" He finally managed to ask, his voice raspy. "I quit," she said simply, as if that explained everything. And in a way, it did. "I chose this. I choose this." She gestured vaguely, not just at his house, but at the entire life it represented. The simple life. The person you met over Christmas. The one who was starting to remember who she was. "That's who I want to be." Not the one on the posters. This wasn't a performance. There were no cameras, no agents. This was just raw, terrifying, beautiful truth. It was in this moment that the lie finally died, and something real could, at last, take its place. The whole fake fiancé turns real narrative, the publicity stunt gone real headlines. They all melted away, leaving just two people on a quiet porch in Ohio. Jack searched her eyes, looking for any hint of deception, any sign of the actress. He found none. He only saw the woman who laughed at his dad's jokes and listened to his sister's fears. The story of the teacher wins the actress wasn't about him winning a prize. It was about two people from different worlds finding a common ground in authenticity. It was about a love that grew love beyond the spotlight. He finally understood. Her grand public gesture wasn't for the world, it was for him. It was her way of proving that what they had found together was more important than anything else. Pretend love becomes truth in the most profound way possible. He stepped aside and held the door open for her. She walked in, and he closed the door on the rest of the world. It wasn't a Hollywood ending with a dramatic kiss in the rain. It was a quiet beginning. It was the start of something real, built, not on a contract, but on a shared choice. They had a lot to figure out, a whole new life to navigate. But for the first time, they were doing it without a script, together. And so the curtain falls. Not on a Hollywood stage, but on a quiet front porch in Ohio, where something real finally had the space to begin. Scarlett and Jack's story is a powerful reminder that the life we build in the quiet moments, away from the watching world, is often the one that holds the most meaning. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What is true success? Is it the roar of the crowd and the flashing lights, or is it the quiet peace of knowing you are exactly where you belong, with the person who sees you for exactly who you are? The most beautiful part of this journey is how a force as simple as family could change everything for a star who had it all. It's a testament to the idea that authenticity is magnetic. The Millers didn't try to change Scarlett their genuine warmth and simple way of life simply reminded her of the person she had forgotten she was. It's a lesson for all of us. Sometimes the greatest transformations don't come from chasing something new, but from rediscovering the truths we've left behind. We truly hope this story resonated with you. If it did, please show your support by giving this video a like. It helps us more than you know. We would absolutely love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What part of the story impacted you the most? Were you shocked by her red carpet rejection, or were you rooting for it all along? Let us know if you liked the ending. And finally, be sure to follow the channel and share this story with a friend so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching.